Meet the Makers. We have another wonderful addition to our interview series that we've been doing here on my channel. And today we have Stacie Bloomfield from Gingiber. And I am just incredibly honored to be sitting with her right now, chatting about what she does, what she loves, what she's passionate about. So without getting into it too much and rambling like crazy because I'm a ball of nerves. I wanted to thank you for being here today, Stacie, and answering some questions. Would you like to do a brief introduction of who you are outside of maybe all of your work and all of the hats that you wear? Who are you? Let us know.
Am I anything without my work? I hope so. So I'm Stacie. I'm an illustrator, and I'm an illustrator who is dabbled in putting my art on pretty much every surface that I possibly can, including fabric, which is why we're talking today. But gosh, I've always been an artist. I've always been drawing. It's like my earliest, favoriteest memory is making art. And I always knew that art would play a part in my life. But outside of fabric, I live in Northwest Arkansas. I have 3 kids, 13, 10, and 7. They keep my hands full. My husband is a software developer. He works for WordPress, so he gets to work from home. And then my job's really flexible, so we're often just all at home together, working together. What else do you want to know about me? I was born in January. I think that makes me a Capricorn, but I don't know anything about it. And I really like TV. I'm one of those. I don't want to pretend to be like pseudo intellectual. I read a lot of books, but I love television. It's how I chill out. So that's probably all you need to know about me.
What are you watching on television? Give us some of the good shows.
Okay, well, I'm always into Outlander. Amazon has a fun little if you like shows that are way younger than your age, but you enjoy watching them anyways. They have a new series out called The Summer I Turned Pretty, which is by Jenny Han. She's an author, and she does all these great little teenage romances. And apparently, I'm a 36-year-old still watching teenage romances, but I love them. Same. That's awesome. And then my husband and I just started rewatching Party Down, which is a little bit inappropriate, but it's from 2004, 2008. Adam Scott, who's pretty famous now, is in that, and we were giggling quite a bit with that. So my taste is all over the place.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm the same way. I like to watch all of the high school stuff. I'm like, I guess I didn't get enough of it when I was actually in high school, but a lot of that same kind of stuff. I do want to take this moment too to tell everyone in the chat, feel free to ask questions as we go. We might not catch them all while we're chatting, but we will also have a segment at the very end where you guys can put those down as well. So let's just jump right into the questions. I have a bunch for you. What training or formal education did you have in the art world before, launching this business of yours?
Ooh, okay. So technically, I was a self-taught illustrator because in college, we didn't have any illustration classes. So my illustration style is very self-taught. But when I was in college, I went in to study fine art. So I have a graphic design and fine art background. And some of it's influenced me. Definitely printmaking has influenced me a lot. And I've always just loved to draw. But I was really doing classical style, like more photorealistic artwork. And so what you all get from me now is very much my own iteration of developing an illustration style.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. And I think I kind of know you started out with doing illustrations for a nursery because you weren't able to find what you were looking for. When did you take that first step from going to that to hey, I could do this and put my stuff everywhere and start a business? Where did that first idea come from?
Okay, well, I'll be honest to tell you that first of all, you need to know this about me. I'm very driven. And I don't sit on ideas for very long. I'm a big, if you have an idea, you need to put it out into the world quickly. That kind of big magic energy, but I hadn't read Big Magic because it didn't exist back when I got started 13 years ago. But essentially, my husband was a graduate student. I was a Starbucks coffee shop manager. We had our first baby. I was 22. And, I was working these crazy hours and I was so busy. I hadn't even decorated my daughter's nursery. So that's whenever I drew my own artwork. And then my husband said I should try to put it on Etsy. But the truth is, it took about 2 years to get any traction. I was working in the margins of my life. After my baby went to bed, drawing, trying to create listings. And the early stuff was really crappy. I'm not going to lie. My earliest stuff was not good. But I've always been this person that pays attention to what's working as
Yeah.
opposed to what's not working. And what was working, I was sewing stuff. I was doing aprons and pillows and plushies. But the thing that was selling were my illustrations that I printed onto a, nice art paper.
Yeah.
So I thought, I should give this a go. And truthfully, what happened that really catapulted me is 2 years in, I got an email from Etsy. Or no, 3 years in, actually, got an email from Etsy, and they asked me if I wanted to be a featured seller, which was a big deal back then. And I was actually due with my baby the day that they said the feature would go live, my next baby. But I said yes anyways, which is probably irresponsible. But I was like, yes, let's do this. I'm like 9 months pregnant.
Yeah.
But my child came a couple weeks early, but she's healthy as could be. And then I had this little newborn baby in my lap when the feature went live, and I just started selling art prints hand over fist. At that point, I'd already put like tea towels on my Etsy too.
Yeah.
And I started dabbling in other things. But yeah, it was at that moment that I was like, oh my gosh, I can really do this.
Yeah. That's amazing. And to make it happen too, like you said, going from a manager at Starbucks, you're building your family. I'm a stay-home mom, so to see those opportunities and to act on them and build, from your passion, that is such a great opportunity. I'm like, that's such a great way to start out. Do you have any influences when it comes to your illustrations? You did mention fine art and print art, I believe. So are there any other things that influence your illustrations?
Well, it's not like they directly influence in the sense that you see the influence in my art, but whenever I'm feeling stuck, I tend to go back to my art history books. For the past couple of years, I've been in a real Art Deco, Art Nouveau inspired in terms of like line work in the way I don't know, it's not just art. It's like, it's a bit more commercial. And for me, the way my illustration work is, it's to be put on a product to sell. So I find a lot of inspiration by like the advertising illustrations during that time. And oh gosh, I really love this painter named Fairfield Porter. My work looks nothing like his, but like I have adored his work for so long. And I look at it when I'm wanting to feel refreshed.
Wow. And you mentioned your line work. Your line work is what stands out to me in all of your illustrations, just the detail and the texture that it gives. Oh my gosh, it's perfect for quilts. It's adorable on prints. It's great on stickers. I literally have my whole sewing machine tagged with your stickers. And another part of your art is that often you use quotes, and a lot of them are from female authors. What started you into that? What inspired that?
Okay, well, I'll be really honest here. I don't think I've mentioned this anywhere else, but okay, for about 2 or 3 years, I was using all original quotes, things that I was writing and thinking, and I was putting it in my artwork. It was in a book that I created called Give Yourself Margin. And I was in a very intuitive place for a couple of years, I felt like. So really, words were coming to me. And then I'll be honest with you, like so many people, I started feeling a little bit like, overwhelmed over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
And I couldn't think of anything that inspired me myself. So then I thought, well, what has always inspired me? And I went to female authors. Now, the trick is, guys, to be legal, to quote someone else's work, it has to be in the public domain. So that means I can actually use like famous authors' work in my artwork, on my fabric. And it's totally legit because I intentionally choose works of, art fiction that have been in the public domain for a while. So that's really where it comes from. I'm all about, I'm a woman. I find that women tend to like my artwork and my products. And I really want to continue to speak to like encouraging other women who don't even know they have a creative bone in their body, let them discover it. And that's part of where I've been pulling from other famous authors' work. But I'm hoping to get that intuitive fire back in me so I can start using my own work soon.
Out of all of them, and I know this is a hard question, out of all of the quotes that you've worked into your products, what is the one that sticks out to you the most? What is one that you remind yourself of to keep you going?
I think the one that is the most me is this quote by Ellen Montgomery, and you have to be very careful using Ellen Montgomery quotes because it's a whole legal thing. I'm a nerd about that. I won't go into it, but it's in one of her works, and it says, "She seemed to walk in an atmosphere of things about to happen." And we have that on a sticker, on art prints. We have it in a fabric line. And that is kind of feels like me. I am just maybe this weird optimist that is always walking towards things as if like it's already happened. I just have to walk towards it And that doesn't mean everything works out perfectly, but I have this innate hope that like I'm going to just walk and then it's going to work out, you know?
Yeah, that's the one that really stood out to me because that was in your Dwell in Possibility panel, wasn't it?
Yes,
I
it
remember
was.
the panel and I was just like, "Oh, you read it and they're not just words. It's a whole feeling that it brings to you. Like you're saying, yes, it's gorgeous. And paired with your illustration, like I remember looking at the panel options, just reading through all these quotes. I'll be honest, I don't know every female author, but all of the ones that you've chosen, it's like I want to know who wrote that. I want to go read what they're talking about in this book because that is such a big message. It just makes you feel like, let's go get it. Let's go do it.
Yep. That's how I want everyone to feel. I really feel like my job, if we're going to call it a job, I mean, I have a job, but like my bigger purpose is to encourage this
Yeah.
creative community, whomever is finding my work, whatever product it is. I want them to walk away feeling like seen and encouraged and maybe have a little bit more pep in their step.
You definitely accomplished that in your work, I would say. So we're talking about your illustrations, we're talking about your fabric. How did your art make its way into the fabric world? How did that transition come about?
Okay. Well, like I mentioned this, I get an idea in my head and I just go for it. That's probably my superpower is just really moving towards things that I think are a good idea. So several years ago, and to be honest, I was kind of in this transitional part of my business at this point. I had been so on Etsy, dependent on Etsy. I hadn't built up other income streams and I was trying to lean into art licensing. And it occurred to me that like, why am I not on fabric? Why am I not doing fabric? And then I thought, I don't know how to make a repeat pattern. How can I be on fabric? And so I was like, two things I have to figure out. One, I need to learn how to make repeat patterns because I have these standalone illustrations that can be cute, but how do I make like the actual repeat that goes on the fabric? And two, I needed to figure out how to get my artwork in front of, fabric companies. And I was so green. I had aside from being a crafter, like I wasn't like, in the fabric world, like we are now. I didn't know who was a good fabric company, who was anything. And, but I just went for it. So I started reaching out to contacts who I knew had fabric contracts. And I was like, do you like the company you work with? Do you like the company you work with? And so then I learned repeat patterns, put together a really cheesy portfolio. It wasn't great, not going to lie. And then I started pitching, which is something I just do. I teach people now, all these years later, how to pitch their work and get into art licensing and do fabric. That's what I do now. It's part of what I do. Anywho, back then, I remember I pitched to several places. Some people didn't say anything. And one place that responded pretty quickly was Moda Fabrics. And y'all, I had no idea who Moda was. I didn't know they were kind of a big deal. And I did not understand. Like, I think if I had known, I probably would have blown it. I have this thing when I'm impressed by someone, I stick my foot in my mouth a lot. So it's probably good that I didn't understand like how big they were. And so we had a phone call and they're like, well, we don't really like any of the fabric designs that you send us in your portfolio. And I was like, okay. But they're like, but we went to your website and we really love your illustrations. And here's what I will tell you. And if this helps anybody, I mean, we all do this. I was looking when I was building my portfolio at everyone else's work. I was thinking, what are the repeat patterns that successful people make? And I need to make work that looks like theirs instead of embracing what I already did really well and, leveraging it. Yeah. And so thank God they looked at my actual website and we're talking about the end of that phone call. I had a fabric deal and I got off the phone and I was like, I can't believe that just happened. It happened so fast. And then they were like, can you have artwork to us within a month for our fabric line? Because we're going to move really fast on this one. And I was like, sure, I can absolutely do that. But I wasn't really good at making repeat patterns yet. So Moda on the first line to get it done quickly, they helped me take my illustrations and make them into repeats. It was all background and textural designs, that first line. It was a black and white line called Thicket. Yeah. And it was the #1 debut line for their new artists that season. And when I found out, I went to Quilt Market where it was debuting. I'd never gone to Quilt Market, didn't know I needed a booth, didn't know I needed, I just showed up. And when the head of the creative part of the fabric company came to me and told me that news, again, I didn't know what a big deal she was. I was sweaty and just gotten off the plane. I grabbed her and hugged her. I was like, you have no idea what this means to my family. And apparently she's not a hugger. I found out later, but I Anyway, so that's really how it started. Had an idea, figured out how to make it happen, started pitching my work, landed where I think I was always supposed to land, and now I've designed like 13 fabric lines.
Wow, that's insane. That is just amazing. Have you thought about collabing with any other fabric designers within Moda? Is that something that you would do in the future?
I would love to do that. I think that so a few years ago, Moda acquired Ruby Star Society, which were the women who originally founded Cotton and Steel. And
Yeah.
so they're now under the Moda umbrella. And they have started doing collaborations within Ruby Star, which I think is really cool. So I'd be curious to see if we could make that happen in the other arm of Moda. I would love that. Who do you think I should collaborate with?
Oh gosh, you know what? I feel like you and Lila Boutique would be kind of fun together because I feel like your aesthetic is similar. Like you have more line work and she has like a very set floral. Like paired together, I think that'd be really fun. I think
Tell her. I'll tell her. I will tell her. I know her really well. Vanessa's incredibly talented. Wouldn't that be a dream?
That would be awesome. I'm gonna put this as a marker. If it does happen, I'm here for it. I will buy all the fabric.
I'll give you the credit. I'll give you the verbal credit. Like this is because of you.
That'd be awesome. What is your well, first, let's see. What colors do you seem to gravitate towards when you're doing your illustration? Are there ones you're like, gosh, I need to start using something else because I'm using this all the time? What are those colors for you?
There are the colors that I'm personally gravitating towards, and there are the colors that Moda wants me to gravitate towards. And I can say that with respect, because here's the deal. Moda knows their target customer. And so sometimes I'll submit a line and my color palette will be a little too modern. So we bring it back to the reds and the greens. And I'm always like, red, more green. But it sells. So like my next line that I'll show you guys later, I just got the yardage in. It's red and green, but it's not Christmas. And it's really, really pretty. And I was surprised whenever I got the yardage in. I'm like, it's a red and green line again. But I think it's really beautiful greens and reds. And I'm actually pretty thrilled with it. But what I gravitate towards is like this line behind me is from Words to Live By. I think you have Words to Live By there.
Yes, it's gorgeous.
Okay. That line should have done so well, but it came out right whenever COVID-19 happened.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, it's like my favorite line I've ever made. I love the peppy floral in that design. The colors, like we've got tangerines and we've got, some citrine yellow. We've got like almost a periwinkle blue and, lots of line work. Oh, I adore that color palette. I would wear that all day. But, it's kind of a balance between what I love and what the customers need. So,
yeah. Well, merriment was also a recent one, and that's a Christmas one. That's got some red and green in there as well, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, I've done 3 Christmas lines, and they all the first 2 use the exact same color palettes. The last one that is hitting stores now is called Merry Making, and it's red and green, but somehow the colors are a little bit darker than I was expecting. So we'll see how it goes.
Do you keep all of the strike-offs that they send you? Do you I would frame them or something. Do you keep them all and cherish them, or do you use them?
I do. I keep all the they don't always send me the strike-offs to keep. Sometimes they send them to me to keep and sometimes they don't, but they always send us yardage. So my whole studio is filled with we're talking yardage coming out the wazoo here. And I always keep some of that. My husband actually I found out he's keeping a thing in the garage with a sample of everything I've ever done. But it's overflowing because they've done a lot of things, which I think is really sweet. So
wow. What is your favorite part of the creative process?
My favorite part of the creative process, sorry, there's a lot of people working here. If you hear that in the background, I'm at my studio. My favorite part of the creative process is just whenever I get to just sit down and make art, because I get really busy now with the business part of things. So if we talk about the creative process, are we talking just drawing, making the repeats, seeing it out in the world? I mean, I love seeing my work out in the world. I love seeing the finished product, but man, my favorites are when I can remember, I remember exactly what I was doing when I drew this bee. You know what I mean? I remember what I was watching, where I was sitting, the ritual that I kind of had when I'm creating it. And I tend to have all these memories from whenever I can look at a piece and I remember when I made that and what I was thinking and feeling. And in that sense, I feel a real connection with the work I make. And so I think that's the favorite part for me is whenever I can like look back and tether it to a memory. That's my favorite part.
Wow, that's very special. And I'm sure when you see other people making quilts, you have that feeling too, like, oh my gosh, like they have no idea what this moment was when I made this, but you do, and you can connect with it. That's really special. I never
Well,
would have like that.
Well, when I thank you. And the Dwell in Possibility line, which you referenced earlier, which is my best selling line I've ever done with Moda, by the way, that
Gorgeous.
was, I remember where I was sitting, what the headspace I was in when I was creating it and submitting it to Moda. And I felt like there's something really special. Like, I don't think that I always want my lines to feel special, but like I said, there's something like when I'm aligned, like in the creative space with where my heart is at and I'm making the artwork. And I
Yeah.
remember when I sent it to Moda, the response was like, this is breathtaking. And then what was lovely is that it ended up releasing in the middle of COVID-19, like pre-selling.
Mhm.
And Moda started sending me feedback from stores. They're like, we never get feedback like this, but people said, this is the line that I needed right now. This is the
Yep.
line that my customers needed right now. And that's whenever you get the goosebump feeling. It's like, oh,
I
wow. From
was
start to
say,
finish, it felt like it was supposed to happen. Does that make sense? And
yeah.
that's a rare feeling, and I love it.
Yeah, I will say that I see my mom just jumped in. I forced my parents to watch an unboxing. It was some random video on YouTube of a fabric shop opening Dwell on Possibilities. They had literally no idea. They know I'm nutso about quilting and I was really into fabric, but I wasn't into designer fabric at all. And I had no hesitation when I saw that line. And like you said, it was in the perfect moment. It was during COVID. It was just like there was limited joy almost, is how you would describe it. And then you see this art that is breathtaking. It's gorgeous. And I was like, I need to buy it all. Like, this is the invitation into the fabric designing world. And it really is the standard that I have now when I buy other fabrics from other designers because the detail, the color, the metallic, but anyway, I forced my parents. I sat them down and I made them watch like an hour-long video. I'm like, look at it, look at this one, look at those, look at this, and they're just like, oh my gosh, like it's great, but I don't want to watch a video of this. They just, they appreciate it for what it is. But I was just so giddy, and so yeah, I really do think it was at the perfect time. And look at us here. Like I never would have thought because from that line, I've purchased Dwell Impossibility. I have Nocturnal sitting right here. I've made it my thing to kind of every time you have a collection, go out and try and get it. If the budget affords it and everything, but you are that designer for me where I'm like, I believe in your work. You put a lot of time and effort, and I can just see you in it. So it's funny that you mentioned kind of like the process and the headspace you're in that because it did mean a lot to me. I'm sure it meant so much to other people as well. So yeah, I'll get off that horse there, but yeah, that's a beautiful collection. That's what brought me to you. I'm so glad you made it. Even in the depths of COVID. Can we say COVID on here?
So we'll find out later if you get like since I
Banned
don't
or
know what happens.
Oh man. Let's see. Uh, what is the meaning behind Gingiber? And I'll be honest with you. So when I found your line, I was calling it Gingiber for the longest time, and no one corrected me. I'm like, oh, I just love Gingiber. Gingiber's awesome. And then I was like, oh gosh, it's Gingiber. What's the meaning behind the name?
Oh yeah. Well, I actually had to write a blog post. It's on staciebloomfield.com to explain to people what the name means and what it does because it's the number one question that we get on the regular, which I actually kind of love because it makes people have to ask me how to pronounce it. My husband teases me because sometimes people will call me Ginger Bear. And so sometimes they'll be like, hey, Ginger Bear. And I'm like, that's not me. Yeah. So backstory is that in college, when I was getting my art degree, my graphic design final was to create a magazine all about myself. I had to design a magazine, photograph it, brand it, and everything, and release the Stacie Bloomfield magazine. So if there was a magazine about Stacie Bloomfield, what would it be called? And I opened up a Latin dictionary and found the word gingiber. It's old Latin for ginger, and I just really thought it looked cute and it had a harmless meaning, and so I grabbed it for that project. And then it really means nothing. It's just fun and perky. Hoi. And then when I opened my Etsy shop a few years ago, I did what I tend to do, which is leverage that art. And I took that old branding and I plugged it into my Etsy shop. And I was like, done. I have a shop now.
Wow.
And I never thought that it would end up being what it was. Does that,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, it means whatever I want it to mean, I guess.
I
So
think it's funny that Instagram always corrects it as gingerbread. I'm like, gingerbread's on it.
every
It's
time I do the voice when I'm talking and it does the transcriptions, it always says that, and I don't take the time to correct it because that's a lot
yeah,
of.
exactly. Let's see. What are some of your future goals regarding your business?
Oh, wow. I have
Ooh,
so many goals. So, fabric is just a part of what I do. I probably do, I don't want to say I do too much, but I do a lot of things. So, I am a licensed artist. So, that's what I do with fabric. That means that, Moda pays me to design fabric for them, and I get paid based on how much it sells, right?
mhm.
So I do that for several companies, and I've licensed with some really big brands like Crate and Barrel and West Elm and Quarto Kids, Chronicle Books. That's a fun part of my business, and I teach other people now how to do that. I have a online training program called Leverage Your Art because there's so many artists like me who want to figure out how to build a creative business and they don't know how to get started. So I teach them how to do that. So that's like licensing and then education. I run a monthly membership to help creative business owners continue to grow their business as well. I run a mastermind for high level creative businesses. And then I also do the products, which is I'm sitting in my studio here in Springdale, Arkansas. And that's a huge bulk of what we do. We wholesale and we do direct customer sales. And those are products that we make ourselves. My art, I actually just hired a junior illustrator for product, not for licensing. It's exciting. And we do, stationery, tea towels, zipper pouches, lots of holiday stuff. And anyway, so I'm just recapping. That's what I do. So what do I want to do? Oh, you have it. You have my weekly planner.
Yeah.
Yay! So, oh, and then we have, I don't have a sample with me, but we have our first planner coming out this year, like a hardbound annual planner, which is going to be gorgeous. Yeah. And so what do I want to do? I want to continue to scale the business, but reclaim space for myself. I love to work, and so it's a little hard for me because work is fun for me. And I know that's not the case for a lot of people, but I also have to work really hard and having boundaries. So
Yeah.
next year, I'm going to just say it here live, everybody. My family and I are planning on taking a sabbatical next year from work because I've been doing this for 13 years, and
Wow.
I really don't take a lot of time off. So next year, the plan is to go overseas for 3 months with my family over summer, and not work. So
That's
like
amazing.
it is.
It's so well deserved. So
Thank
well deserved.
you. Well, what's funny is in order to do that, I have to work extra hard so that I can do that. So it's like, oh, that's kind of it's all gonna level out. But my goal is that I have a lot of employees now
Mhm.
and they keep helping to make it easier and more sustainable. So if we can keep growing and keep offering our customers designs that they love and make them feel seen and continue to have a work environment where my team feels supported, like I'm hoping that that can keep happening and I can take a little break.
That'd be awesome. Well, seeing that you hired on someone, I saw that a few weeks ago. That must be a huge weight off of your shoulders where you have a little bit more freedom to either be with your family or focus on other parts of your business. How has that been for you so far?
It's been interesting because so she starts full time in like September, but she's been doing part time contract work for us. So it's funny. I got tagged by her on Instagram a lot because people thought our work looked similar. And
Mhm.
sometimes people always think everything's nefarious. They're like, her work looks like yours. And actually, when I looked at it, I was like, I see something. This is years ago. I was like, I see potential here. I think that she could work for me someday because we're different, but I think I could teach her how to draw like me. And we're talking years ago. I
Yeah.
thought this, but the timing wasn't right. So last December, I messaged her and I said, hey, I don't know if you'd be interested in doing some contract work. Here's what I'm interested in. And she was so excited. So we spent months kind of training her in the gingerbread style, gave her the color palettes, how I hand letter. And then it's been very collaborative back and forth. And the goal is that for not licensing, because I always need to do the licensing work because it's mine.
Yes.
But for Gingiber direct customer products, she's helping with greeting cards now, sticker designs. She'll be helping with next year's planner and calendar, which is really, like you said, it's a big weight off
Yeah.
because I can, there are times when I can be prolific in terms of the amount of art I'm creating, but there are also times whenever the well runs dry a little bit. So now I have some support when the well is dry.
Yeah, that's really nice. That's really nice. I've seen her work. It is similar, but she's got her own flair to it, and I think it works perfectly with your brand. It really
Oh,
does.
well, she brings to the table some things that I struggle with, honestly. Even though I think I'm a good illustrator, her florals are just dynamic and gorgeous. And
Yeah.
so I was like, I want more of your florals, friends. They're good. And when I say look alike, I didn't mean it in like a bad way. It's just like I would get people messaging me thinking like, "Oh, I love that illustration you just released." I'm like, "I didn't release that illustration. It was Rebecca." But honestly, like I think we both work and procreate, and we use similar brushes, and we have similar sensibilities. She's also wanting to create work that inspires and encourages women. So it was
Yeah.
like a really lovely, yeah,
Yeah. A
yeah.
puzzle, a puzzle piece right there. That's
It really
awesome. What has been the biggest hurdle for you throughout your whole journey so far? What has been something
was.
you're like,
Well, I guess I'll tell you what's hard for me right now, maybe, because I feel like there's always hard things when you're an artist, when you're a fabric designer, when you're a creative business owner. Um, I come across very confident, but I am very much like anyone else that when I put myself out into the world, it feels very scary. And yet I keep doing it anyways because I know that's how I've grown.
Yeah.
Um, my business and then personally. So I have this big launch coming up for the Leverage Your Art course, and it is taking a lot of time. It's a lot of work to run a course, and it is very scary because it's not like, do you love my art, which is kind of safer.
Yeah.
It's like, do you trust me to help you grow your creative business, which is very scary,
Yeah.
in the sense that people are, you know, they come to, they join a program and then you just want to show up and serve them. And I can't tell. I feel things pretty deeply. And I just care so dang much about like my students and the people I'm trying to teach that sometimes I uh, get a little emotionally overwhelmed by the breadth of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think it was almost safer as an art business, even though it was hard. It's like, oh, is this going to sell? Is this fabric collection going to go well? I hope. But, it wasn't me that was being judged or
Yeah.
showing up. It was the design or the art. So now that I've gotten into online education, it's a whole different level of responsibility. And I'm not one who shies away from hard things, but it is hard in a very different way when you're talking and serving people, you
Yeah.
know, it's not
It's
like
like,
they.
do you believe in me? I know you believe in my artwork, but do you believe in me? Like that, yeah, the center is on your abilities. That would be very vulnerable to try and do.
And it is vulnerable, and also in the sense that, like, I want so badly for my students to succeed and to feel that sense of, like, growth.
Yeah.
And, but then I also know that, like, all I can do is show up and present what I know, and I have no control beyond that, and that's hard for me. So, like, I think that's hard. And anytime you grow and step into a new place in your business, it has to feel scary, otherwise you're not going to grow, right? Like, that's my opinion. Like, you learn because of the pain, right? So now I'm trying to learn, how do I how do I exist? How do I exist and keep making beautiful artwork without letting the pressure of being an online educator take over? I
Yeah.
love it, but it's also scary.
Yeah, that would be scary. I'm sure you're doing just fine. I haven't done any of your courses because I'm not really having a business
Oh,
yet,
no,
but
no, no, sorry I went off on a tangent on that. It's just
no,
that's
no.
happening right now.
Sister-in-law, she's a graphic designer and she's actually expressed like interest in learning how to do the repetitive designs and all that. So I might have to refer her to your course because she's really interested in building her stuff. She does like macrame and clay earrings and all of
Oh,
the
that's
things and
fun.
stickers. So maybe I'll have to send her your info and be like, hey, she's not just a fabric designer. She does courses because I don't think she knows that. So
Well, I don't
that's
tell everybody about that because, my fabric collectors, they're not really there to learn from me, right? They're there to buy
yeah,
my fabric. But that's just part of hard. I will tell you, I'll be quick about this. I won't be verbose.
you're fine.
The fabric, the hard part is you can have a line that you love and believe in that lands really well, and you can have another line that you love and believe in just as much, and it goes. So you all probably know this, but like our quilt shop owners, like they need our support. They need us to show up and buy from them because like my fabric doesn't sell if they don't think that they're going to have enough customers to buy it. So, during COVID when people were home, quilt shops were buying so much more fabric because people were at home making stuff. And now that we've mostly reemerged, back into the world, a lot of our quilt shop owners, they're not seeing that customer base, come back as consistently. So it's hard to feel powerless in that sense that like I want our quilt shop owners to thrive, because then it also affects the sellability of my fabric. So, I think, and I'm like anyone else, shop online whenever I can. So maybe instead of just Googling it and shopping there, maybe we can find local people to shop from, our local quilt shop owners, because they need our love.
Yeah, and that's something honestly I didn't even think about. I maybe it's just ignorance, but I was buying from Joanne, like I said. So then when I found your fabric, and then I kind of made the connection of, oh my gosh, I need to be supporting these small shops because we maybe have three in our town, and they're small, relatively small. And I'm just thinking about all the money that I've spent at these big box stores, which nothing's wrong with that.
Yeah.
But then thinking about the struggle that they had to face during COVID, it really did give me a way of like, wow, like I need to. Well, it could have just been an excuse to go tell my husband, hey, I'm going to go to the quilt store to save the world. I'll be right back.
It
Or
is. We have to quilt. We save the world.
exactly. So, yeah, I think that's a wonderful lesson. I think most of the people in the chat, they're really good about it. About supporting their quilt shops because I mean they're just people trying to make it too, and they're passionate about fabric just like we are. So
And without our quilt shops, we wouldn't even get to do what we're like. I wouldn't get to do what I was doing if there weren't quilt shops. And so I don't want to see them, declining. I want to see them thrive.
exactly. That way you can keep making collections too and wowing us all with all of your
I
work.
hope so. I got to tell you, like, it's been a huge joy. And fabric has become such a huge part of our business. We now have quilt patterns that we sell regularly. We come out with products to complement the lines. It's a huge part of what we do. So I love
Yeah.
it.
You were talking about how you have your courses, and what would be something that maybe when you started out you'd like to hear from someone in your position? What would you say to someone wanting to grow their business? What's your biggest piece of advice?
Ooh, if you want to grow your business, you have to, one, believe in yourself, because no one else is going to, and it sounds cheesy, but it's true. Like, you're not going to be able to make enough people believe in you and to affirm you and to taking action. You have to have it inside of you intrinsically to want to move whatever that business is forward. So if you're, have a long arm machine and you want to start like monetizing that long arm machine, like you're going to have to thrust yourself out there and talk about yourself. No one's going to stumble upon you and like catapult you. Like, it's a lot of hard work and you have to believe in yourself, because there's not going to be a lot of people who even believe in you until you've done the work, right? Another thing is a lot of people don't give it enough time. I see that a lot. People will like try to launch a business and they won't have an audience yet, and it'll be like crickets. And so then they'll stop really fast. And I'm always like, no, don't give up yet. Let's talk about marketing. Let's talk about finding your audience. You can do this. So you can't give up quickly. Any business. I mean, a lot of times creative people are like, I want to do this quickly, but y'all, any business that you start takes a while, and unless you have like, I don't know, Elon Musk had like how much money given to him by his parents. I don't know. But like the majority of us don't have that. So you have to be able to just like stick with it. And I guess the last thing I'd say is like, you better love what you're doing, because if you don't love the thing that you're trying to turn into a business, it's going to be hard to do those two first things that I talked about.
Yeah, and keep going even when you're facing, trials and things not going well. That would be hard.
Blessing community, and you have a community here, which is awesome, and I love that. I think I was reading a stat. It's a stat that I've been talking about with my students. You're 95% more likely to achieve your goals with direct accountability, and I think that that's where community comes in. Because when I first got started, I think I grew a lot slower than I could have, because I was isolated. I was the only one I knew doing what I was doing. The internet wasn't as interconnected as it is now, honestly. Yeah. And I was just guessing all the time. And, that's fine, but it was also very lonely. And I think once I plugged in to be intentional about creative community, I learned about more things. I felt more supported in taking risks. And so like the community aspect is maybe like the thing that's overlooked a lot, but a lot of successful businesses, they have community. You just don't realize it.
Yeah. Well, you're like spot on with the long arming thing. We've been trying to get our foot in the door with that, and all of those three pieces of advice are, I mean, crucial. Those are the things that I've been struggling with lately, just trying to remind myself, like, I have to believe in myself. This is something that I like. And I do have a community that's going to support me and I can learn from and bounce ideas back and forth from. So those are really great pieces. That's what's been keeping me going. Like, don't give up, don't give up, don't give up. So.
Yeah.
Show some of your past fabrics. This is the fun part. I know you have some fun things with you right now. What was your first collection? You said it was Thicket. Do you have it on by chance?
I only have a little bit of it. Let me grab something because we have gone through that pretty rough. Let's see. Do I have anything? Yes, I do. Can you give me that panel there with the box, the black and white one? Yeah. Give me that good stuff. All right. Okay, so I have a little bit of Thicket here and a little bit of catnip mixed in because they're black and white. So this was the original panel that kind of catapulted me because I do a lot of panels. So they were these black and white animals filled with like texture because I do a lot of like illustrations with line work. And then here are the other two friends. We have Mr. Bunny.
He's so cute.
So those were the main panels. And then the supporting fabric looked like this, essentially. Like, see that? It's so funny. This has shown up everywhere now. I'm not trying to like be poo-pooing on people, but I was doing this illustration work for like 13 years. And all of a sudden I'm like, every fabric line that's coming out is doing some cute little swirly lines. Woohoo! And then what else do I have? Now catnip's mixed in here. We added gray into catnip, but it was like along these lines. Pretty much all the textures that you saw in these panels, we pulled out and just made background blenders. That was the entire line. It was blenders and panels.
It's perfect though. I love that. All of those little lines. And I feel like outside of quilting, I don't really know if I have an art style that I go towards, but something about that line work just like had me latch on. And the black and white I love it. It's simple. And I think I remember you were talking about catnip. I think I remember maybe it was QuiltCon or you had a booth and you had like those cute little cat ears.
I did.
Pillow and everything. I thought that was the cutest thing ever. I was like, dang it, I wish I would have gone to that. That would have been so fun.
I was purring at strangers because I get a little into it, and some people like it. Some people are like, get away. I love Quilt Market. I haven't been to Quilt Market in a few years because of COVID, but hopefully Quilt Market this fall will happen. So, have
you had any plans to go to QuiltCon by chance?
Not this year. I always think about getting a booth and going, but it's so hard for me to. I guess I have team members now I could help send with me.
Do you? Let's see. So what's your favorite collection? Do you happen to have your favorite one? I think you mentioned maybe Words to Live By because of the colorings. Was that your favorite?
That's one. It is one of my favorites. I'm going to show you a different one.
Okay.
So this is a line that should have done better. It should have done better. It was amazing. It was called Birdsong. It's the last one that hit stores. I'm just going to grab all the piles of Birdsong and show you guys. It's just hanging out here behind me. So first of all, it did fine, but I'm kind of, I have really high expectations. I'm real healthy that way. Yeah. So this is like one of the florals for Birdsong, which is just really fun. We had, I'll get to the birds in a second. It's a story we're building. These are little bird feet. See what I mean? They're like a little bird feet, like they're leaving tracks, you know?
Yes.
That did really well for this line. It was just a really basic one, but it works as a background fabric, but it also is like quirky. And then we had, these never do as well, not going to lie. It's a basic motif. So this bird, we did it in several colors. The blue especially is our most popular.
Yeah.
But I find that like, unless you're going to do like some cutting, like these just don't do as well. We had a hand-drawn plaid, which is really fun. So we did that in a couple of colors. And then this is the first repeat pattern I ever made. Finally got it into a line, just little flowers.
Oh,
so it's silly, but like that was in that original thing that I submitted to Moda, and I finally found a way to get it into a line. And then this is not the favorite colorway of this print. Where's my? Okay, so this is really pretty. It's like,
oh my gosh, those pinks. Oh my
Aren't they fun? So we did that in different colorways. And honestly, Moda and I both thought this was going to be a grand slam. And it turns out it might have been a little too quirky with all the little quirky birds. Because the tagline is the best kind of bird is a quirky bird, So yeah, that line is in stores right now. And I loved that line. I loved making it. I loved the whole shebang, but it did not sell as well. So we were like, okay. So the next line, we're hoping.
I did see that line. My friend Heather, she looks through the like lookbooks, I guess, of Moda or Ruby Star and sees like all the upcoming lines. I didn't know that was a thing, and so I was flipping through. She's like, "You need to look through it." And I believe I might have been on a live one night, and I came by and I was like, "Oh my gosh, Gingiber's doing a bird line," because I am a bird nerd. I love me some birds, and I was like, "This is gorgeous." So I'm surprised as well. Maybe, there aren't as many bird fanatics as we think there are, but they're so pretty. They're so pretty. Even if you don't like even the plaid and that continuing design that you showed, like those would be so nice for like binding and background. The colors are always on point.
But this one is
that blue of yours.
The blue, right?
Yes, I love
My
it.
secret is that I don't use Bella solid colors to choose from, which is what a lot of designers do. I actually make custom colors here in my studio digitally, and then I send in swatches to get the colors just right. Anytime I don't do that, that's when the color doesn't turn out the way I wanted it to. So I always do that, and then they color match it in the factory that's making the fabric. And that's always like, I feel like one of my secret sauce things that,
Yeah, it sets you apart for sure, because those colors are just unreal. Like even in Nocturnal, just how like the pinks and the blues and like that mustardy color go together. It's so pretty. So I think you also have your future line.
You're gonna love it.
In your lap right now. Do you want to show us something that's not in stores yet?
I'll show you. Let me grab even more. It's so good. I hope that you all
please do.
Order this because yeah, let me grab, this is just part of it. Oh my goodness, all the yardage. Oh
my gosh.
Okay, so Moda has a sales meeting Thursday to introduce this line to their reps, which means we're going to start showing it in like 2 months. So okay, it is really pretty. So like this is all gold. So these are insects.
So it goes so well with Dwell too.
Oh, it's going to look so good with Dwell. This is a floral with lots of gold in it.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's really fun and pretty. I'm not as crazy about this print, but Moda was cool about it. But that's gold everywhere, and it's just like different directions. This is where it gets really fun for me. Is like the bumblebees. These are bumblebees. So it's funny. The moth did really well for Dwell Impossibility. So we did a bee version with that gold. Yeah. And then this is actually this from Dwell. We just did it in a different colorway. It's that same design that people really loved as like a background. And then we have mushrooms, which we love mushroom.
Oh my gosh.
It's so fun. Oh, and then where's the other? I have 2 more. There's a million colorways of all of this, but like so this is really fun. So there's butterflies hidden in this line work. So it's all gold printed, screen printed, but there's little butterflies hidden in the clouds. So like that's kind of fun. I hope that people love it. And then this is just really basic. It's like really basic. So it's just like vines going in one direction or the other. But it's fun. And when you see it all together, it's so good.
Yes. Oh my gosh. My sister-in-law goes, Beth loves the metallics. Thanks to you, Gingiber. Thanks to Stacie.
There's another floral. I forgot. So this is another floral. So it's a little bit fancier. Yeah, unfold it a little bit more. So it has flowers and some butterflies and bees and caterpillars. It's a little bit more detailed, maybe a little bit more sophisticated than the other designs, but I think it tells a story that's really fun. And then the last one, then I'll show you the panel. The panel's different. We're going to see how the panel goes. Bye, Amanda.
Sorry. Bye, Amanda.
All right, so Moda for a while was having me do these really big panels instead of the smaller ones, but now after this line, we're pivoting back to smaller ones. But like this one says, it's not what the world holds for you. It's another Ellen Montgomery quote. And then we have the honeybee, Emily Dickinson quote.
Oh my gosh, those are beautiful.
What's this one say? I don't even remember anymore. Where flowers bloom, there's hope. So that's fun. Of course, these will work for like mini quilt centers if
Yeah.
you are so inclined. And then happiness is a butterfly.
Oh, wow.
So it's called Meadow. I should have mentioned that. The name of this line is called Meadow.
That is such a beautiful collection of fabrics. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you take all of this and throw it onto a piece of paper or fabric or whatever. Amy saying, I want that panel. So great. Oh my gosh, right? It's so I
Oh,
have a panel quilt kit. I've got a lot of quilt kits just with your fabric in it that I need to put together. It's kind of like when you go to eat food, that's like your eyes are bigger than your stomach. It's like my eyes are bigger than the time that I have. So I have all this beautiful fabric that I'm hoarding from you and kind of collecting as well. And I'm like, I need to make it. I need to make it. But honestly, it hurts to even like cut into it. Honestly, I'm like, I can't open it.
well, let me just tell you. Oh, hi, Crystal. I see people commenting. Here's what is so important. If you could do one thing for me, I'm going to ask a favor. Ask your
Oh,
quilt shop to buy the Meadowmere panels. We have been finding that like the quilt shops aren't ordering as many panels because they don't know what to do with them necessarily. But if we have special requests from Gingiber fans being like, we want panels, then they'll buy them. So all you gotta do is tell them. And then you can just keep them. But here's the cool thing about panels. It's kind of like my tea towels. I envision them being like, you could frame them. You could
yeah.
stretch them over a canvas. Like I know we want to put them in our quilts, but we can do a lot of other things with it too. Fabric is art,
Yeah.
pretty much. So yeah, and I want
pillows. You can do so much with them. I have the nocturnal one. I mean, I think like every line you have a panel section with it, and I love the panels. I kind of wanted to make because most of the time you have several on the piece of fabric. I wanted
yeah.
to make my daughters for their room like little pillows to put in their beds with like all of the quotes and everything, just so when they grow up, they are surrounded by positive, encouraging words like "Go females, let's do it." Um, Lynn saying, "But once you make a quilt, goody goods, you'll be able to snuggle under it." Very true. Very very true.
It is
Um,
true. I saw a question asking if I do non-metallics as well. Yeah, like I do a lot of lines that don't have metallics, but what we found is the lines that do have metallics have been selling a little bit better.
that might
So
just be
you're buying all the metallics, and that's why they're selling so good. Thank you. Don't stop, Beth. But that's part of it. I think I do 2 to 3 collections a year right now for Moda, so at least one of those will probably have metallics until the metallic train gets off the track or whatever.
it's never going to come off the tracks. I think it's here to stay forever.
Ever.
Let's see. Do you have any hobbies outside of Gingiber? Like, are there things you do outside that feed your soul?
Yes. So I do. I think I'm working on that. I'm gonna take a sabbatical and figure out my
Exactly.
life here. But really, it's not necessarily a hobby, but something cool. Community. I have been meeting with almost the same group of women for coffee every Thursday morning for almost 8 years.
Wow.
And that is like that feeds my soul in a different way. No one's there because of my work. We have stay-at-home moms, we have makers, we have people who have full-time jobs who've just arranged it that they can come to coffee real quick in the morning before they go to work. But we've been doing that for 8 years, and that's incredibly gratifying for me. And it reminds me about the importance of friendship and connection, and it has nothing to do with my work, which is fantastic. And what else? Ooh, what else do I like? I like traveling a lot, and that has nothing to do with work. So my family and I just got back from a 2-week vacation to Canada, exotic
Wow.
Canada, but it was beautiful, and the weather was amazing. And we went to Prince Edward Island to see all the Anne of Green Gables things because I'm that person, and it was wonderful. And what else do I like? I like listening to fiction books, a lot of fiction that actually helps clear my brain because I do so much work. So I like to just listen to fun fiction. Yeah.
Wow. Let's do some fun questions. Some of them are from my husband. And then after we'll open up the chat for people who want to ask questions, but this is just like a fun little section. And I know you are a coffee lover. You love coffee. So some of these are coffee related. Iced coffee or hot coffee?
Ooh, my go-to drink for years was an iced coffee with hazelnut syrup and half, but now I'm trying to do less sugar in my coffee and less milk. So now it's like black coffee, which is less fun, but it's what I've been trying to do. But for like years, my go-to was like an iced coffee, hazelnut syrup, half and half. Boom.
That sounds good. I'm not even a coffee person, but when I do, I kind of just mimic what my dad does, and he puts like half a container of chocolate syrup, like a bunch of milk, a bunch of sugar. By the time you're actually drinking it, it's just some hot chocolate, pretty much. Um, so that first one sounded really good with the hazelnut, and I think that I want to try that. I think I would.
I gotta plug in my computer real quick. I'm at
Okay.
15% battery
Oh
and I don't
no.
want to go anywhere. Hold on, real quick. My plug's
Okay.
right. Um,
I'm
I'm a real professional. Yeah. So there's that. What else? Uh, you asked me about coffee. I like tea too a lot. I really like just like tea, breakfast tea. Yeah,
Yeah. Coffee in the morning or coffee all day?
all day.
All day. Oh my
But
gosh.
I slowly sip on that coffee all day. It's
Okay.
not like I'm drinking
So,
like
like,
8
morning.
cups. I can't actually do more than like 2 cups, or I'm like, "Woo." If you can imagine this energy, it gets a little bit much. So,
I think that's actually why, because my parents were like, "You can't have caffeine," when I was younger, because I'm operating kind of at a similar frequency all the time. So with caffeine, it's just unmanageable. It gets crazy. So it's probably a good thing I don't love coffee or tea. I don't mind coffee. But again, hot chocolate coffee, of course. What's your favorite local coffee shop over where you're
ooh,
at?
yeah. So there's a parent company called Onyx Coffee that's founded in Northwest Arkansas, and their coffee is so good. They've won awards, and they literally the woman who co-owns the company with her husband, she's like won like the World Barista Championships like several times in a row. But it's in the bonkers here in Arkansas. But they opened a concept restaurant and coffee shop, and it's literally like 5 minutes from my studio, and it has the funniest name. It's called Hail Fellow Well Met. And it's a funny name, but it's the most beautiful place. I go there often, more than I should. And I get my coffee. And when I'm feeling real silly, they have these almond croissants that are just like,
Ooh.
oh, textured and delicious and buttery and good. So yeah, I that's my favorite local coffee shop.
See, we can talk about carbs all day long. Like we could
Let's
talk
do
about I will meet you there.
do it.
What are your favorite things or places to go in Arkansas? Like if someone were to come travel to where you're part of the woods, where would you
Mhm.
recommend them go to and what do you do
Yeah.
out there?
So actually, I I sorry, I saw a comment. I actually just hosted a retreat here the week before last. So women all over the country came into Northwest Arkansas and I taught them stuff, but I essentially gave them the best of Arkansas. So it's fresh on my mind. So if you so Bentonville is about 20 minutes from where I live. People know Bentonville because it's like where Walmart was founded. So take that and leave it. Let's imagine the rest of it. Okay, there's this beautiful Crystal Bridges Museum. It's like a world-class art museum. And it's not just like a stuffy art museum, it's beautiful. So many good things to do. My kids love going there. They have this beautiful trail system with art installed all on the trail. We're kind of known for our trails and our outdoorsy stuff, even though I like air conditioning and not being outdoorsy that much. So it's like so beautiful. The local restaurants are amazing in Bentonville. The downtown square is super fun. And then in Fayetteville, it's the college town, but like really if you do Bentonville and Fayetteville and then just swing by Springdale to see my studio, I'm the highlight of Springdale. I'm not, but those are my favorite things: the local restaurants, the coffee, Crystal Bridges. We have a modern art museum that is fantastic as well. Um, I like the energy here, and it's people are always surprised because when they think of Arkansas, they don't think of this, but I'm in like the nice little pocket.
Yeah, and your storefront is adorable. It is absolutely adorable. Do you have any plans for in the future someday adding on in a different state maybe?
Maybe, we were open to the public before COVID, like all the time, which was fun. And then with COVID, we closed the front doors, but we still operate out of here. And then the
Mhm.
business has grown so much. We keep thinking we're going to reopen for some pop-ups, but mainly people are ordering online from us. Sometimes people do local pickup. And if we were to expand, we probably couldn't do it in this building just because of where it's situated. So I don't know. I have no idea. I'm kind of here. There we go. Universe, tell me what to do next. I don't know. I don't
Give me
know.
a sign.
Yeah,
Um,
give me a sign.
Austin wants to know dogs or cats? What kind?
Dogs.
Okay, wow. I was gonna say, I even told him, I was like, I bet she's a cat person because she likes coffee. And he's like, how are those correlated at all?
I like dogs, just not my dogs. No. I mostly love my dogs. I 75% love my dogs. They're just a little bit naughty and hard to train. I've just never grown up with cats because allergies.
Yeah. What kind of dogs do you have? You're saying, are they beagles? I'm gonna guess. Are they beagles?
One is half beagle. It's half beagle, half Maltipoo. We adopted him from a rescue shelter a few years ago, and I'm the nerd who paid for a doggy DNA test because that's who I am, because I'm really into that kind of stuff. And he's half beagle, half Maltipoo. He's a real cute, weird looking dog, but we don't know what his life was like before we got him, and he is barks nonstop.
Yeah.
We've had two trainers work with him. One was a military background dog trainer, and he was like, "This dog's very stubborn." And I was like, "Yay!" And then my other dog is half Cavalier Spaniel, half Poodle. Her name is Rosie. And
Oh,
Rosie's very sweet, but she's never gotten the hang of potty training. So we only keep her in certain parts of the house where we can clean up. I mean, and we've worked with trainers. She's just
yeah.
a little bit silly.
Oh.
She's like me, a dog. If I were a dog, I'd be Rosie, except I'm potty trained. Our personalities are incredibly similar.
Hey, if you have hardwood, no, there's no harm done there. Let's see. And this is another one that Austin's asked in the chat sometimes, so we might as well ask it, and then we'll head on to our chat box and see what you guys, because I see some questions on there. But okay, so this is like a pretty good topic. It involves food, so that's always good. We can talk about food forever on here. You're going to a potluck. You were invited to a potluck. What dish are you bringing? What's the Stacie signature dish?
Oh, crap. Sorry.
I hope you're not bringing that.
Not that. My dog is. No, oh my goodness. I used to cook all the time. Cooking, if you had asked me 10 years ago what my hobby was, it was cooking and baking. I used to bake like these really intricate, beautiful layer cakes with ganache and candied hazelnuts and stuff like that. I could probably pull that out of my back pocket and bring that to a potluck if people are so inclined. And if not that, like, oh gosh, you don't want me bringing anything. I could probably make some jalapeno poppers. Those are pretty easy. We'll do that.
That sounds good. Okay, well, he's gonna be excited about that because he's all about the jalapenos. He loves jalapeno poppers. That sounds great. I I don't know. I can't bake or cook. I can make cereal and ramen and nachos. So take your pick.
I had
Um,
nachos for dinner.
so now is a great time for everyone. I've wrapped up all the questions that I have. If anyone has any questions in the chat, I'm gonna look through. I'll start at the very beginning and go all the way through and ask those. But if you want to help me out, put them on the bottom too. Let's see. We need some like elevator music for this part.
Jeopardy theme song. Do. There we go.
So my mom wants to know, do you have a patriotic line or are you planning on doing a patriotic line in the future?
That's a really good question. I'll be honest with you. Moda tends to approach designers to make these lines. It's less that we submit them. And when it's like, they call them like specialty lines, even though patriotic lines are awesome, they're harder to sell. And so they tend to gravitate towards designers who like they think would be a good fit for those. So I've never been approached about a patriotic line. I know the other Stacie who's at Moda has done a patriotic line. Me and my sister, they've done patriotic lines. So we'll just see. Ask Moda. Say, hey, we want to see Stacie do a patriotic line.
Especially with like your reds and greens that
I know. Green is practically blue. We just got to swap it out. We're good.
How awesome would a patriotic line be with your blue? Can we just and your line work? Like I'm picturing some fun fireworks, like all of those like exploding out with some color. Oh my god, that'd be perfect. Sue said, "Hi ladies, I'm on vacation and found this live. One of my favorite interviewers and one of my favorite designers, Cool Beans." Let's see. Lynn says a panel and co-coordinating fabrics make an instant quilt without too much thought.
Exactly.
Which is perfect. Amy says she wants the panel. We all want the panel. We want everything that you put
I
out.
want you to have what your heart desires. That's what I want for you.
Michaela said she'll buy the panels. Crystal says she'll get the panels. Kathleen says she'll get the panels. We're just clicking
You'll get a
through.
panel.
A lot of
You'll get
people
a
are
panel.
let's see. Hot pads and trivets are great things to make with the small panel pieces. Ooh, and then she also says, I'm using the nocturnal line to make a quilt for my friend's camper.
Oh, that'll be cute.
What pattern are you using, Amy? Crystal asked, how big are your panels?
Ooh, that's a really good question. We typically do 2 sizes. We do one that's close to the medium size panels, close to like a letter size piece of paper. And then like the big panels, which I just folded up. I'm trying to remember how big this one is. It has to fit on a yard. So that's always our limitation is whatever makes sense to fit on a yard. So what's that? Like almost a 16. It's a little smaller than 16 by 20. I'd say. I don't have the exact measurements on me. I have my templates on my computer. I just, I have really interesting short-term memory. If you ask me something, I'll remember the answer in an hour. So, yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious. Let's see. Is there a YouTube for Stacie, and how did she get into sewing and quilting?
Oh, I'm not on YouTube, but I do have a blog called, it's on staciebloomfield.com, and I do video blogs. So they're like vlogs. Mainly I talk about the business side of things, less of the creative right now, but that's where you can learn a lot more about me. And then I'm on social media a lot because I have a lot of fun with it. So if you watch my stories, you can probably have more fun than reading the grid, frankly.
Yes, I love watching your stories. You're always up to something. I love that sometimes you feature your family, so it gives like a nice behind the scenes of what does your life look like? And yeah, I always love it when you're like chilling in the library. Like I got like today, I think you were coming back from the library.
Mm-hmm.
You're always doing something.
Always doing something. My oldest is 13 though, so she's less and less going to be seen because we're talking about social media boundaries, which is totally fine. Oh yeah, and then there was a question how I got into sewing and quilting. Do you mind?
Yes.
Quilting. It was mainly when I started licensing fabric is whenever that happened. I pitched Moda, and then I realized after I was in the Moda world, I'm like, dang, this is Moda. They're kind of a big deal. So that's whenever we got more into like the quilting world. But prior to that, I'd always been sewing and crafting and making things, which is very different. But like, for instance, I was featured in the American Girls. Remember the American Girl dolls? They had a magazine when I was a little girl. And like I made a custom chair for my American Girl doll to sit in and photographed it real nice back in like the late 90s. And I sent it in and it got featured in their magazine. And I was like, I made it. I made it. So like crafting and that kind of hobby sewing, I've always just like done because I love it. But quilting is newer.
Have you put together like your own quilt using your fabrics? Have you made one yet?
It's been on my bucket list for a while. I've started, but what I always tend to find is like, okay, you're probably familiar with this. Like if you don't have a set workspace where you can just get everything out and leave it there, it's really hard to make progress on projects. So like the studio right now is filled with like our team and they work out of here. And so there's not really a set place where I can get messy, but I now have a spot in my house in my basement where I'm doing all my recording from. And there's space for me to spread out with. So I showed that on Instagram Live and someone was like, why aren't you making quilts down here? There's so much space. So maybe that will be how I finish it.
I can totally relate because I used to sew, like we had a 968 square foot apartment and I would sew on our kitchen table and I would always have to like get stuff out. And sometimes that's the hassle. Like I don't feel like getting everything out and setting it up. So totally understand where you're coming from there. But I think that maybe you should bring your sewing machine on your sabbatical and do some like free creating. Like even if you don't make a full size quilt, make like a little, a little one or a quilted pillow or a quilted wall hanging. You should do it with no strings.
No strings attached. I won't monetize it. It'll just be for fun.
No, it'd be your quilt that you would be like, hey, I made it on this amazing, relaxing, restorative trip. Michaela says, what goes into creating a whole collection? Do you start with one pattern and then work off that, or do you think of it as a whole?
Ooh, oh, this is a great question. I have different ways that I work. So one of my main philosophies as an artist who does a lot of things is I try to make really quality pieces of artwork that then I can dissect and turn into other things. So let's say, for instance, let me grab something and show you what I mean. Sorry. because I started out just as an illustrator and got into fabric later, my work before fabric was mainly like, see this little moth, it's really pretty, but it's just an illustration on a white background and it works on a panel. But like, what can I do with that moth to create, like, turn that moth into a full fabric collection, which is, I actually have a class on Skillshare about this. It's called Pitch Perfect Portfolio. The idea is that, like, I have all these little details and textures in here. So I'm going to extract, like, see those little lines that are in the moth, not here, that actually turn into one of the patterns in Dwell in Possibility. And then like this, like, lots of little pieces here and there, I pull out the texture and the line work, and then I turn them into blender and backgrounds. And then from there, I think, how do I fill in the gaps? Oftentimes I have artwork that I've already created, because I do make a lot of artwork, where I can pull pieces from that to create a full collection. So it's always like, start looking at what I have already. Then I dissect it. Then I fill in the gaps, and usually color comes last, although I'll usually have some idea of where I want the color to go, but I save perfecting the color until the very end. And then other times it's like, I'll have a story that I want to tell, and maybe I only have one piece of artwork that starts to tell that story. So I'm going to develop all the other artwork around that story, because I feel fundamentally that my favorite fabric collections, they do tell a story. They kind of draw you in. It's not like they have to have words on it, but they draw you in, they make you feel a certain way. And so my goal is for my fabric collections to make someone feel XYZ when they look at it. So that's kind of how I think about it.
See, and that's Michaela. She's my sister-in-law. She's the graphic designer that I think would be great in your course, because, yeah, I could see her do some great things too. You should do it, Michaela. Do it. Let's see. We're almost to the end. I'm trying to keep it all. Okay. Teresa asked, where do you get your inspiration from?
Oh, I touched on this earlier, and really, when I'm feeling like dried up, I go to classic art. I go to the museum. I look at my favorite, like, historical time periods in art, and that kind of, even if my art doesn't look like that art, it gets my juices flowing. Going back to old literature, old classic books that I really like, and reading them makes me feel good. Sometimes my inspiration, like, I did 2 farm lines, and it was inspired by being in Arkansas, because I can be in the city but drive 10 minutes away, and it's rural, and there's, farmland everywhere, and cows, and, sometimes it's about a place, sometimes it's a feeling, sometimes it's whatever my mood is, I guess. So yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think there was something called Grant Your Quilty Wishes. They do it every year. And this was like the first year that I saw it. And so I was like, okay, my quilty wish for this year is anything Gingiber. And I got sent some like cute little strawberry fabrics, and I made like a Valentine card out of it. So I believe that might have been from that line, one of the 2 lines that you just mentioned. Oh my gosh, so freaking cute. I'm just so freaking cute. I was like, I don't know. And they were smaller little scraps. So I was like, I can definitely cut into this and be useful with it. But like the full on fabric pieces, I'm like, I can't. I just can't. I have to like look at it and just know that it's there. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Let's see. We've got one more, and then I'll let you go for the rest of your day. That moth would be really cool. Be a really cool machine embroidery design. Do you have machine embroidery designs?
No, we've looked into getting them made, and it's just something that isn't going to work necessarily for us, because the audience is a little bit more limited. I've looked into partnering with some machine embroidery pattern companies already, but it just hasn't been the right fit. We do have hand embroidery kits. The moth isn't a kit that we sell, so it's like more if you want to do hand embroidery, less machine, but that's very time consuming. We do have those types of embroidery kits, but it's something every time we do quilt market, that's the questions people say. They're like, where are machine embroidery patterns?
It is a niche like market. Not everybody has that, so I understand. I've seen your hand, like your little hoops in the store, and I'm like, man, if I was good at embroidery, I'd definitely do this, but I am not. So
Ours are so easy. Like, they're the most easy embroidery kits. I made them to be as good at embroidery as I am, which is not as good, not very good. So it's like, if I'm a beginner, how can I end up with a pretty embroidery?
Yeah. Well, I think that's all of the questions for today. I will let you go and have the rest of your beautiful Tuesday. I really just wanted to say thank you again. Thank you so much. I can't believe I've been able to sit here with you and chat with you, and yeah, it's been a really great time. So Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's been a pleasure. So yeah.
Thank you for having me, and for all of you who have written in questions and comments. I got to tell you, I really appreciate you taking the time to do that. And I just want to make sure that I don't leave without saying that I am so thankful to get to be a fabric designer. I love it so much. And I honestly, every day I wake up and I pinch myself a little bit like Anne from Anne of Green Gables. And I'm like, wow, this is so wonderful. I'm so fortunate and so happy. So thank you.
Oh man, that's awesome. Yeah, I guess I'll just let you go now. I'll press the end stream button. So goodbye to everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Meet the Makers. I think today was another just amazing interview. We got to know Stacie a little bit better. I hope you guys all have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you guys very soon on a live, either tonight or tomorrow. So, goodbye, everyone. I'm gonna press the button. I'm gonna hang up on you guys.